Okay, so here is my review of Assassin's Creed 3. So I completed this game last weekend. So I've had about 1 week to reflect on the game and to think about the things that I liked and disliked. So for Assassin's Creed 3, I did my very first playthrough, recorded playthrough. So I'll put the link in this description, the description to this video. And if you're interested, please go and check it out. So anyway, on with the game. So Assassin's Creed 3 generally was a very good game. I did really enjoy it. Obviously, it had a lot of good points and a lot of bad points, which I'm going to talk about in this review. So the first main thing that I really liked about the Assassin's Creed 3 game was the setting. I love the setting of Assassin's Creed 3. If you don't already know, you probably do if you've seen the trailers, but Assassin's Creed 3 is set during the American Revolution, and it was a hugely fun and interesting backdrop for the game to be set in. It was really cool. You got to take part in, you got to see the beginning of the American Revolution, and you got to take part in a lot of really key events in that historical period. So you got to take part in things like the Boston Tea Party, and the Battle of Bunker Hill, the naval battle of Chesapeake Bay, which is really fun to be involved in that. And there are also a lot of really cool famous historical figures that make cameos within this game. So there's like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Lafayette. There's so many different really cool cameos. So that was really fun, and I really enjoyed the historical background. If you are a huge history buff, if you love history like me, you're going to really enjoy that. And it is one of the main things about the Assassin's Creed series that makes it so fun, is the historical period. In terms of the environment, the actual environment of the game, I really enjoyed the frontier. I thought the frontier was beautiful, really beautiful, atmosphere and nature. And it was really fun to climb some trees and enjoy the beautiful sunsets and so on. So yeah, the frontier was really beautiful. I also really like the new addition of seasons and changes in weather. So within the game you get to play in the rain, pouring down rain, or the snow. You get to see changes in seasons from spring, autumn, summer, winter. So that was a really nice, fun addition. The only thing I really didn't like about the environment was there are only two main cities in the game, New York City and Boston City. I really didn't find those cities too interesting. I thought they were a little repetitive in their design, and not so interesting. A little bit dull, I guess. And not so much detail within those environments. I thought there could have been a bit more detail in that. Now obviously the developers of the game are limited by the historical period in which the game is set, and it's really hard for them to compete with amazing old, thousands of years old and historical cities like Rome and Venice that we got to explore in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, and Constantinople in Revelations, and Jerusalem in Assassin's Creed 1. So obviously it's really hard for the developers to compete with something like that, and it really doesn't lend itself well to that. But generally I really enjoyed the frontier, but I felt the cities I didn't enjoy exploring Boston or New York as much as I had done exploring Rome or Venice. But anyway, so that's about the environment. So the characters, well, my favorite character in Assassin's Creed 3, surprisingly, was not the main character. My favorite character in Assassin's Creed 3 was Haytham Kenway. I loved Haytham Kenway. I thought he was so much fun. He's a really cool character. He's really funny and charming and charismatic. He has all the skills that an assassin has. He has exactly the same skills as our main character Connor, and I really enjoyed playing through as him. At the beginning of the game, I think the first 3 sequences you get to play as Haytham. So that was really fun. I also really enjoyed it later on when he came back into the game. and I really loved his banter between him and Connor. And yeah, I found myself actually really missing him, like while I was playing as Connor, you know, and trying to take down like other Templars, and I was like, oh, where is Haytham? And I found myself actually quite missing him and quite missing playing as him, which is not really a good thing in a game. Like, that's the thing. I mean, the main thing is, you know, in Assassin's Creed, you've got to, your main character has to be likable. And I just felt that in Assassin's Creed 3, I just didn't find Connor likable. I just didn't really click or connect with his character. I thought he was too serious, too stoic. Sometimes I felt his reactions were very immature, and he just compared to all the other assassins, like compared to Altair and Ezio, I just felt that Connor was the weakest of all the assassins. Now, obviously, he has a reason to be serious and stoic, and that's because of his background, and I'm not going to go into detail on that. But yeah, I just didn't really click with him, and I just didn't feel like he was a very good assassin. Like, you know, towards the end of the game especially, he just seemed to go in, like he didn't seem to be stealthy, he just seemed to run in like head first and didn't really think things through, and was really irrational and just emotional, not very you know, not very strategic. You know, like Ezio had been. You know, Ezio was obviously a lot cooler. He was much funnier, more charismatic. You know, I really enjoyed playing with him. And just with Connor, I felt like he was just kept going in and getting injured and nearly dying, and I just didn't click with him. I just didn't like his character at all. It's not that I disliked his character, I just didn't really gel with him. So I found sometimes his actions just seemed really silly and not well planned and were a little frustrating. So I actually enjoyed playing as Haytham more. If they did a DLC where you got to play as Haytham, I would completely buy that. And like, you know, if I could choose to play as Haytham the whole way through the game, I probably would have done that, because I really enjoyed Haytham and much more than Connor. So that's the thing with the main thing with the characters. So the gameplay. So what things did I like about the gameplay? Well, the first thing I really liked about the gameplay is the fighting system. It took a little time to get used to, but once I got used to the fighting system, it was really enjoyable. It's much more fluid. I felt the fighting system had a lot more similarities to Batman Arkham City, you know, so like, you know, they would attack you and you'd counter, and then from hitting that counter button, you had many different options, you know, in terms of if you wanted to throw them or disarm them, or, you know, do a counter hit or a counter attack. And then the same as the previous Assassin's Creed, if you got to kill somebody, you could, you know, tap a button and instant kill them. But the really nice addition as well with this game was you could take two people out at the same time. So if two people went to hit you, if you hit counter at exactly the right time, you know, Connor would do a special kind of counter move where he would end up taking out both people. And those cutscenes, those fighting scenes, were so fluid and so much fun and just so kick-ass and really enjoyable. I love, you know, the sheer variety in terms of, like, you know, weapons. You can disarm somebody and take their knife or their gun or whatever. I loved using Connor's tomahawk. I felt, you know, his moves with the tomahawk were really fun and really, like, you know, brutal. Some of the moves were really brutal. I like the long range. The pistol was fun, though it took so long to reload. I often didn't use it that much because it just took ages to reload the flintlock pistol. But the addition of a bow and arrows was really fun, especially if you wanted to stealthily kill people. That was really enjoyable. So the fighting system I really enjoyed. I felt it was very fluid. Also the villains, you know, the soldiers that you'd be fighting, I really liked the fact that, you know, you had to deal with them in very different ways. For certain levels of soldiers, so you did find yourself not just button crunching and randomly pressing B all the time, but actually having to think about, right, well, I can't take this guy out, I have to disarm him first and then do a counter or whatever. So I really enjoyed the fighting system. I thought that was really great. The other thing that was my favorite new addition to the game, and I just loved it, was the naval battles, the naval missions. Oh my god, I had so much fun. I felt that they were just some of my favorite bits in the entire game. You know, being able to steer a ship and you know, shoot cannons and shoot like a swivel gun and take cover, and you know, you got to take part in some really cool naval battles. And I felt the controls of that, you know, those side missions and you know, the controls of the naval battles were really good. It was such a well designed part of the game. It was so well designed, and you know, a lot of other like pirate based games that exist out there really should look at Assassin's Creed 3 and learn from that. And like, I would love for the developers of Assassin's Creed 3 to introduce some kind of like extended DLC where you get to play more and do more naval battles. And yeah, they were my favorite parts of the game, and naval battles were just so much fun. I had so much fun playing them. It was really, really great. So another I guess positive thing with the Assassin's Creed 3 is there are many, many, many side missions. So, you know, you will get your money's worth out of Assassin's Creed 3 if you buy it, you know, for full price of $60 or, you know, £50 or whatever. Like, you are going to get your full like money's worth, because this game, apart from the main storyline, which is 12 sequences, it does also have a lot of side missions. And of course the multiplayer element of it as well, which is a lot of fun to play. And so yeah, I mean, there's so many side missions within this game that you know, even after you complete the main story mode, like, you can come back and just keep playing it, you know, keep playing it for hours and hours and hours. Some of the side missions I really enjoyed. I loved the homestead missions. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed how you built up your homestead, and you would help people and recruit them onto your village. But then, like, from that, you'd have to like continue you continue each character's story. You'd help them out in like a little mini kind of side story mission. And I loved how, you know, Connor really got to know all the people living on his homestead, and you built like a little community around you. And I felt that all those characters in the homestead missions were really interesting and very three-dimensional, and it you know, it became almost RPG-like in how you'd be interacting with them. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the homestead missions. They were another part of the game that was kind of my favorite, probably my favorite of all the side missions, apart from the naval battles. So I really like that. There were also some really fun little mini games in there. So you got, you know, if you're a big board game person, like, there were lots of really fun little board games and mini games that you could play within the game. Which was a new addition, and were quite enjoyable, actually quite challenging as well. I got my ass beaten so many times, but enjoyable, so I quite enjoyed doing those. I like the whole continuation of taking down the forts, but I like the fact that in Assassin's Creed 3 they were a bit more challenging. I felt in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood they were too easy. Like, you know, you could just go in, like, you know, blades, you know, taken out, and just go in and kill everything and kill the captain. But you had to be a little bit more stealthy. Like, these were real forts, like, you know, they were very well protected, and you had to try and get into the fort in a stealthy manner, otherwise they would close it on you and you couldn't get in. So I like that, and I like the fact that you had to take out the captain and destroy the gunpowder and you know, lower the flag, and that was really, really fun. And so yeah, I enjoyed taking down the forts. So those were the main 3 side missions that I enjoyed. Although I have to admit, a lot of the side missions I found to be very tedious and very annoying, particularly like the Benjamin Franklin almanacs. I just really didn't like. I found those annoying to chase those around. You know, I really didn't enjoy. Oh, the treasure chests. I thought it was a terrible mini game. The mechanics involved in that were just awful. And you know, after a couple of attempts, I just gave up. I just stopped searching for them and stopped trying to unlock them, because it was just taking too long, and it was just such a bad system of using, you know, your left and your right thumbstick and having to hit RT and it vibrating, you know, even after turning off the vibrate function. it's still like they're too sensitive, and I gave up on that completely. So I really didn't like that. Another thing, a thing I started to like, I liked traveling through the trees in the Frontier. That was a really nice new addition, and it was very fun to, like, you know, run in the trees and jump from branch to branch. And it was also really fun to use your rope dart and, you know, shoot down and hang somebody from a tree, and eavesdrop on people from a tree and assassinate from the tree. It's also really fun, you know, the new hunting system that you can use in the, you know, in the wilderness. That was really fun to hunt and try and get pelts and meat and so on, and that was really enjoyable. So I enjoyed the whole new edition of running through the trees, but I really didn't like in the city. I found, like, you know, trying to go up buildings, you know, to the tops of buildings, and Connor would just often do something else, and to get up the top of a building was just took so long and was so annoying. And then even when you get up there, the guards would be so sensitive that they would spot you and yell to get down. And so I just found myself a lot of the time just not going up onto the roof, and just walking in the street and blending into the crowd, or, you know, jumping into a hay bale. And so, yeah, I really lost that kind of Assassin's Creed element of, like, you know, running and leaping from rooftop to rooftop. And I felt that was a shame, you know, it was a bit of a shame in the game. And so what else did I enjoy about the gameplay? I enjoyed Desmond's missions. I actually quite enjoyed it. I much preferred them in Assassin's Creed 3. I hated the minigame in Revelations, as you guys know, so I really enjoyed the fact that you could play actually as Desmond. I liked the fact that Desmond had, you know, many the assassin's skills, and you could use those. And so I found, like, you know, Desmond's side missions to get the artifacts actually enjoyable to play. Yeah, I quite enjoyed playing those, so that was fine. So what did I dislike about the gameplay? Well, there's quite a few big things that I didn't like in Assassin's Creed 3 and thought were serious issues that need addressing. So the first thing in Assassin's Creed 3 that I did not like was Connor's controls. Oh my god, I thought we were past this. Like in Assassin's Creed 2 with Ezio, you know, he'd fly off and do something completely different, and it'd end up, like, you know, yelling at the screen and getting so frustrated. And I just found myself doing it again with Connor. You know, I found myself, like, you know, telling him to go up, you know, to climb up something, and he'd shoot off to the right or shoot off to the left, or, you know, I'd try and, like, tell him to jump over something or chase somebody and dodge somebody and end up jumping over a barrel. And so there were just some things in the mission, you know, some time missions and some things where you had to do something stealthily, and Connor would just, like, you know, jump up onto something and, hey, I'm here, and then, like, he'd just do something that he wasn't supposed to do. So I felt his controls were not smooth enough and were really glitchy, and very frustrating. The other thing I didn't like in the game was I found that there was, I mean, I didn't have as many as other people, and I've heard there are many glitches in the game, but yes, there were many glitches, and you know, some serious glitches that really did affect your enjoyment of the game. Like, one of the key things was there was a lot of glitches in the animation, in the cutscenes. Like, there were so many glitches in lip syncing, which, you know, it's not the end of the world, but it does really affect your enjoyment and your overall experience in the game. There was a couple of glitches even within the main games. Like, you know, it would say I was anonymous in my thing, and I'd just be walking in the street, and all of a sudden these guards would just freak out and start, like, attacking me, and I'm like, I'm anonymous. So there were, like, little glitches in that. There were a couple of glitches in missions which made me have to reload. I had a glitch in the Chesapeake Bay naval mission where I basically destroyed all the boats, all the other ships, and then, like, you know, it was supposed to cut to the next scene, but it just kept going around. And, you know, my fellow sailors were like, we have to take out the ship. And I'm like, but they're all dead. Like, what do I do? And I was, like, you know, sailing around for ages, and I ended up having to reload and do that entire mission again. So just things like that, glitches. I mean, I know they've been working on this game for a long time, but developers, it's really becoming an issue now where they're rushing out the game because, you know, companies like EA are pushing them to release it. And the game is being released with so many glitches, and then they're having to come out with patches later to improve it. Of course, no game's going to be perfect, and you're going to, of course, have glitches in the main game, but, like, serious glitches like that are just really need to be caught before you release the game. for sale, and it seems to becoming a trend at the moment with many companies, and it's a bit concerning. I do know that Ubisoft, like Montreal, have released a patch a week or two ago, which supposedly is supposed to fix all these glitches. So if you haven't bought the game, probably by the time you buy the game, most of these glitches hopefully are going to be fixed. So it's a minor thing, you know, and it didn't break the game, but it did just affect your overall enjoyment of the game. So the last thing that I really didn't enjoy and just I got so frustrated with, and I've said this in my previous games, that I'm not a huge fan of the 100% synchronization side objectives that you have to achieve. But in previous games, I've had a go, and if I haven't got them, it hasn't been the end of the world, and it hasn't really frustrated me. But I found in Assassin's Creed 3 that, oh my god, some of the side missions, the mini objectives that you have to do within the missions to get 100% synchronization, I just found some of them so frustrating, and some of them so ridiculous and so contradictory, and so many of them within a mission that you have to do like three or four different things within a long mission, and you have to get all 3 or 4 in one playthrough to get full synchronization. And I just found myself, like, it just took a lot of the enjoyment that I would usually get from the game out of it. I just found myself so frustrated. Like, I'd get through the game, and maybe I'd get, like, I'm doing a big long mission, which is like, maybe I don't know, 20-30 minute mission, and maybe I got like 2 of the objectives and I've done them, great, and I've got one more objective to do, and it's like right at the end, and I do something and I don't get that objective, and because I don't get the one objective, I don't get 100% synchronization, so I have to reload the entire mission again and start from the beginning. And obviously, you can go back into the Animus and attempt them again later on, but I just found a lot of the objectives just really silly, just really stupid. Like, in some of them it would be like, you have to do it in a certain time, like a 1 minute 30 seconds to do something. You can't get detected, you can't kill anybody or hurt anybody. And like, and there was one where you had to rescue a guy in the water, but you couldn't touch the water, but eventually you end up jumping in the water. Some of them were just really contradictory and just very annoying. So yeah, I found a lot of the mini objectives really annoying, and I would just be like yelling at my TV and throwing my controller to one side, and I'd just have to be like, oh, taking a break, time out, and turn it off and go and have a cup of tea and then come back to it. And yeah, it did just really affect my enjoyment of the overall game. So, I mean, that's my general, overall thoughts on Assassin's Creed 3. Now, of course, I talked about many things that I didn't like in the game. Overall, though, the game was actually very good, and I did really enjoy it. The main things that make this game is, the setting that it's set in the American Revolution. The actual combat fighting system is really good. The new addition of the naval battles itself is so much fun. There were some good characters like Haytham, which was really, really cool. And, like any game, there's pros and cons. So, do I think it's worth buying it full price? I do. I do actually think it's worth buying it for $60 because it is a good game. It's a good game. And it's an important game within the series. It's the final ending to Desmond's story, so it is a pretty important part of the game. Do I think you should play the other games before playing Assassin's Creed 3? Absolutely. In the beginning of Assassin's Creed 3, they do show you like a short previously an Assassin's Creed 3 clip, and they try to fill in some of the gaps, but not too much. So I would say if you really want to get the full experience and to really understand what's going on with Desmond and with Juno and Minerva and everything else, and the Apple of Eden and everything, if you really want to understand what's going on, you really do need to play the previous games, and they're good, so I do recommend that if you have the time, you do play Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, and then Assassin's Creed 3. So generally overall it was a fun game. I enjoyed playing it. You know, I'm glad I bought it at full price. I really enjoyed playing it, and it still has a lot of replayability. I'm going to go back and try and complete more missions. So what did I think of it in terms of a score? Probably Assassin's Creed 3, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. It was a good game, you know, it was a good game. It wasn't a perfect game, but it was enjoyable, and I really enjoyed playing it. And I do recommend that you buy it and that you play it. If you're not sure, like as I say, you can check out some of my playthrough to get an idea for it, or if you're not sure, you can rent it first and then obviously buy it. It's entirely up to you, but it was a good game and I enjoyed it. So that is my overall thoughts on Assassin's Creed 3. So yeah, so thank you anyway for watching this video, and please, you know, leave any comments below if you've already played the game and what you thought about the, you know, the gameplay and the good and the bad points of the game, or if you agree or disagree, or if you have any questions for me and you'd like to know my thoughts on certain things, please ask me a question in the comments below. So yeah, so anyway, this is N7Kate signing out, and I'll see you guys next time in my next video. Alright, so catch you guys later. Bye.